What's up, everybody? It's your guy, Tyler, Mom's Basement MMA. I hit the record button this time. Poor Ashley Barrett. Poor Ashley. She fights out of the Boston, Massachusetts area, and she is with USMMA Gym, and she is a ammy strawweight. Ashley, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here again. I guess we're running it back.
Thank you.
Ashley, we have spent some time at it's been amazing just talking to you thus far, and there's like one person that you and I have been chatting about at length, and it's Hilarie Rose. And I had her on the show earlier this summer. She's an amazing woman. She's one of my favorite 15ers in the game, in any promotion. And I wanted to ask just about her specifically and the impact that she's had. You're just starting your mixed martial arts career, and I can't think of too many people out there that you're better off with than her. So can you just talk about Hilarie and the impact that she's had on your career so far?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be where I am right now or even close to it if I didn't have Hilarie or if I had never met her. I mean, she was the first person I met when I walked into the gym when I was 14 in the 8th grade. I had done like karate for a few years when I was like 12, 13, and the school I had gone to had closed down. So I was looking for a new place to go as like a hobby. And I didn't even know that I was walking into an MMA gym. I didn't even know what MMA or Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu or any of that was. So I walked in and she was the first person I met. And if you know Hilarie, she's super friendly and welcoming and just like a nice, genuine person. And she was teaching a kids class and she let me watch. And because I was 14, she recommended that I take an adult class. And I did like a cardio class the next day, which I was super like nervous and intimidated by because I really didn't know what I was walking into. And she just made it such a positive, welcoming experience. And ever since then, I've just been in love with this and, never really looked back. And I know that this is what I want.
When I spoke with Hilarie earlier this summer and we talked about USMMA, you were the first name that left her lips, and she was just like, Tyler, there's this girl you need to talk to. Her name's Ashley Barrett. She is a bad lady. Like, you need her on your show. And I tell you what, like, she's somebody that's very special, and you're gonna be hearing her name one day. And I'm like, okay, Hilarie, like, I love Hilarie, I do, but I've been doing this long enough, like, every fighter I talk to, and I get it, you have to, right? Like, it's like your gym is your family. You know the people you train with probably better than like your boyfriend, better than your husband, better than your own parents. I mean, you spend probably more time with them than you do anybody else. So I get why, there's that familiarity. I get it. I totally get it. Because if I were a fighter, I'd do the same thing. I 100% would. So I kind of take some of those comments with a grain of salt. And so I was like, okay, like, because she told me, she was like, no, for real, like, do it now, like, add her now. And I was like, okay, fine. So I grabbed my phone, like, we paused, like, our little, like, interview that we were doing. I grabbed my phone, I added you on Instagram, and I didn't think anything of it for a few weeks, actually. I had other interviews and stuff lined up. I had a bunch of other things going on. And you jumped out on my feed. You must have posted something, but I saw you. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the girl that Hilarie told me to add. I should look into her and just kind of see what's up. I looked at your fights, and Jesus Christ. You are one of... I get it. Like, I totally get it. I'm sold. And Hilarie was not, like, talking you up. Like, what she was saying was exactly what I... Like, everything that she said you were showed up on the film.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to see you fight. And at Cage Titans 48, you put on a very... I won't even say a show. You put on 19 seconds.
Yeah.
Can you, for the people who don't know what we're talking about, can you explain what happened at Cage Titans 48 in July?
So in July, I fought Erica Valentine at Cage Titans, and it was a very short fight. I went in and we were both kind of throwing punches that weren't really landing, and then we both threw a kick at the same time, and I slipped and she ran in, and I just saw when she ran in that the triangle or the armbar was going to be there. I knew that I could get up and strike with her, but just the way that she was running in, I just felt so confident about where her head was and like where she was like coming down with her posture, that if I threw that up, then she was not getting out of it. And I was right.
Actually, did you know much about her? Because I'm so glad that her name's coming up, because was that her debut fight?
That was her debut.
How do you prepare for somebody who's making a debut?
Yeah, so I actually was a lot more nervous about fighting somebody who's making their debut than I was fighting anybody else. And I've fought girls with 6 fights, 3 fights, 4 or 5 fights, older, more experienced. But I knew that she was going to come in for blood because it was her amateur debut, and everybody wants to win their amateur debut. Everybody wants to make like a mark and have people know who they are. So and not knowing much about her, not knowing if she was a grappler or if she was a striker, what she does for training, I didn't know much about her, and not knowing that gave me nerves and stuff like that. But it's just staying prepared for everything and training everything and just trying to be ready for any possible outcome.
Actually, there's like a sense of like electricity about you. I watch you fight, and for the Cage Titans promotion, I know that's a Massachusetts-based promotion. I know you are from Massachusetts. There's a lot of people who know who you are. That place like flips out every time that you're about to go into the cage. And can you talk a little bit about what that experience is like, making that walk to the cage? Like, you look like you're in Terminator mode when you're about going in there. Like, you just look very focused, and it just seems that everything else is just kind of white noise to you. But I would really like to get your take on what that experience is like.
Yeah, so I usually have a lot of nerves and emotions on fight day and leading up to it. But once I get my hands wrapped and I know that I'm up next and we're making that walk, there's just no feeling like it. And I just don't even really feel or notice anything. I can just feel the energy from the crowd, and I know that everyone's there, and all I see is my opponent, and I'm just staring into their soul, and I'm not gonna look away. And that's one of the things is Hilarie's always right behind me telling me, like, she's always told me, don't look away. She's not even gonna look at you. Don't stop looking at her. And that's just something that I've always done, and it always just makes me feel so much more confident and ready when I'm in there, and it just puts me in a zone.
I think it's freaking awesome. And I think there's so many things that you've probably learned from your coaches at USMMA, not just Hilarie, but just that entire team. And this last fight, I mean, it ended as soon as it began. But a question I like to ask some of the ammies, the ones that don't have a whole lot of experience, is the ability to like make adjustments in between rounds. And every fighter has a different coach. Coaches are different, of course. Everyone has different coaching styles. So when you're in between rounds, I know you have to think back a year and a half now, but when you're in between rounds, like, what are the types of things that Hilarie and the rest of your coaches are telling you when you're in the corner?
They're telling me things that I am doing good and that I should keep doing, and the things that aren't really working for me and that maybe I shouldn't do or I should try to avoid. They tell me if I won the round or not, but usually that's really only if I ask, which I try not to. And they just tell me, like, sometimes they'll tell me to just relax, and just to keep doing what I'm doing, especially like if I'm winning. That's happened to me a lot in my kickboxing fights, especially if it's like round 2, they're like, or the end of round 2 and we're going to round 3, they're like, just keep doing what you're doing, like you've won this.
Are you an advocate of an open scoring system?
Yes, but also no, because you're not as focused on the fight in front of you. You see that score, and that can be either discouraging or it can make you kind of get a little ahead of yourself and be like, oh, I'm winning. I won that round, or I won those 2 rounds, and then you think you got it, and then anything can happen in a fight. So I think it's best to trust your coaches, trust yourself, and just try to do your best and stay in that moment for as long as you can. I think it's good for the coaches to know the scores, but I don't know, for the fighter, it depends. I think it can kind of get you out of the zone a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough. I asked Anthony Smith that question.
Yeah.
But I asked him that question too, and he was like, "Oh, I want to know 100%." He's like, "I want to know what the scores are," and he kind of thought I was psycho because I was like, "I don't think I want to know." And he's like, "What? Why wouldn't you want to know?" And I was like, "Because I like the drama at the end." And he's just like, "I want to know. Fuck that." And I'm like, "All right, whatever." But I think that's a good point, and I think there's like it's like a two-edged sword. Like, if you know that you're ahead, it's like, okay, could I get complacent? Could I get on my bike? Could I like back off? And then could my opponent, knowing that she's behind, is she gonna come at me and like bring it? So it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, I guess. Maybe it's less of a deal, like if you have like 20 fights under your belt.
Yeah.
But like when you're just starting out,
Yeah.
that could definitely throw you through the ringer. And when I look at your fights, I know not every single one of them are listed, as is usually the case, but from the ones that are, you have experienced a lot in your in the first 4 bouts that you have listed on Tapology. So your very first one was June of 19, and you get a KO. The next one happened in September of 19. Now, it wasn't an MMA bout, it was a Muay Thai bout. You get a decision, a unanimous one. You get January of 20, a split decision loss. And then just last month, you get an armbar submission in like 20 seconds. The entire like spectrum of emotions you've experienced in just 4 fights. I mean, that's pretty insane. Mm-hmm. Like, and when you like think back, like when you reflect on like those 4 fights, just those ones. I'm not even talking about the smokers you've done, anything like that. Like, what is your main takeaway from all of that?
I mean, I have fought some tough girls, that's for sure. Like, my coaches, especially as amateurs, they put us, you know, through the ringer. Like, they're going to have us fight people with experience, people who are, you know, about it as much as we are, like, about being fighters, not about just, like, trying it as a hobby. Like, they want to be fighters, too. So I feel like I've been in almost every situation in just my 4 fights in the cage. So I think I've gained a lot of good experience and just knowing what it feels like to be in a good position, what it feels like to be in a bad position, what it's like to win, what it's like to lose, what it's like to get hit with small gloves in front of your whole family. Yeah, I feel like I've experienced a lot in that short amount of time.
I think when I look at AMI fighters, particularly ones that are relatively new on the scene like you, because we're talking about making your debut a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. I don't really pay too much attention to your record. What I do pay attention to is who you fought and how many fights they have. Mm-hmm. And when I look at your fights, every single one of them, with the exception of your most recent one, they're girls that are like a lot older than you, and they have a lot more octagon time than you do. And I mean, none of these girls are gimmies. They're all super tough, and you have fought some ridiculously tough opponents. Like Natalie Schlesinger, she is a freaking monster.
Yeah.
Yep. Like, that is a tough girl to fight against. And she had 6-7 fights under her belt, yep. and you had 2.
Yeah.
2 or 3. Well, including your smokers, I don't know, but
I had 1 MMA fight, and I think I had my Muay Thai fight with Cage Titans.
Can you talk to me a little bit about, I know it's kind of the Wild West when it comes to like matchmaking on the AMI scene. A lot of times, I'm not going to speak for Cage Titans because I just have a vague familiarity with that promotion in particular. But with a lot of promotions, it's, hey, we have a 15er, we have a 25er, and our opponent dropped. We just need somebody quick. Are you good? Can you make the weight? Okay, come on in here. Like, it isn't always so methodical. It's just a matter of like, hey, we have a gap. Can you fill it? Can we, square peg, round hole sometimes. Like, not quite. It'll have to be a catch weight. I guess, so I'm asking, like, did you pick these girls, or are these the girls that you just got?
So I don't get really any say or pick or choose in who it is. My coach, Matt, is in contact with the promotions and the like people who do the matchmaking, and they put your name in, your weight, experience, and then you'll get, a text or message from the promotion they'll say we have a name, we have somebody, and then usually like we just kind of take it. I don't really ask too many questions. I'm just kind of like, okay. Usually we just know like their name, their record, and they get the weight, and it's 115. But yeah, I just kind of trust my coaches that they're taking fights against someone who's tough, but someone that they believe is like a good match for me. They're not going to put me against somebody who's got like way more experience than me, but a tough opponent.
I would, if it were me, I think the first place I'd go, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to Tapology. I'm going to look what they did. Yeah. I'm going to go on YouTube. I'm going to Instagram stalk their ass. I will do everything I can to figure out as much as I can about who it is that I'm fighting. And I'm amazed at some of these girls that they made you fight against. Natalie in particular, like she's very, very tough. She's insanely tough. And let's talk about that fight. So she's the only person. It was a split decision loss. I've watched that fight probably a dozen times now. It was a very close fight. It was a very entertaining fight. It was a very close fight. I think she's the only girl that truly tested you, from what I can see. All the other fights that I've seen you out there, Ashley, I feel like, I'll use the word. These are my words, not yours. I feel like you just kind of take over and start dominating them. Yeah. And I'm not going to say you're on cruise control, because you're looking for a finish. You want to get out of there. I get it. But she was the first girl that really, I think you had to dig deep for that one. I know it didn't go our way, but can you talk a little bit about what that experience was like? You fight a tough girl. It doesn't go your way. How do you regroup from there and like press on?
Well, the minute I got out of the cage, I was just like, well, I mean, it was a split decision loss against a tough opponent with 6 fights at the time. She had 6 amateur fights. And I think after that, she went pro, or she might have had one more amateur fight and went pro. So, I mean, losing always hurts, but I knew that it was a tough fight. And I mean, we had some words like after, and she was just like, I was, your age at one point, kind of like, and she was older than me and stuff. And, I mean, it was kind of inspiring that like she had that many fights, and like she had, a few losses and came back from it. And I was like, well, if this is the person that like I'm going to lose to, like, I'm going to learn from this a lot. Like, I don't know. Losses are never easy, but I was glad that it was somebody that was so talented and, so experienced, and that I could learn so much from it.
Yeah, I've talked to Natalie a little bit, and she had nothing but good things to say about you. She said that you were insanely difficult in there, and she was like, that was a fight, and she's very, very tough, and she has a very bright future. She had very nice things to say about you, and I think that's definitely like a learning opportunity. So you go in there, you're in a freaking dogfight, and then Rona happens.
Yeah.
And do you feel like it's the Schlesinger fight happens, Rona hits, and now things are starting to close up all over? How the heck do you stay in shape? What is it that you're doing when everything's starting to close down?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard. It was hard to know if like this was permanent or if I was ever even going to be able to fight again. And I was just kind of sitting on a loss that I really wanted to avenge and like prove to myself and prove to everyone that like I can do better and that I have big things coming and a bright future. And so it was hard, but I just had to try to, stay disciplined even when I didn't feel like motivated. And so I have, not like a great like gym in like my basement, just like a heavy bag and like a few things. So I would just try to do the basics, shadow box, watch videos of like my fights and think about what I wanted to work on. And luckily enough, I was able to get back in my gym and train with Hilarie a few months later when she was preparing for her Contender Series fight. So, I was really lucky to be able to help her with that fight and, train with her. And then just try to do my best to, stay in good shape and work on the things I wanted to work on and just stay positive, knowing that the world would return to normal and I would be able to avenge that loss.
I'm so glad that you talked about staying positive, because not from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint, you get a tough loss like that. The
Yeah.
world is shutting down.
Yeah.
There aren't any fights out there.
Right.
That fight gets uploaded to YouTube, and then you're gonna have that natural inclination, at least for the first couple days. At least I would, if I were you. I would be on YouTube, but I'd probably watch that fight freaking 30 times. Yeah. I would probably know that fight frame by frame. I would probably know every single thing that the announcers are gonna say, and like I would stew on it. Yeah. And a loss should hurt, and I think that's part of the process when you're trying to get over it. In a way, it's kind of like a breakup, right? A girl breaks up with you that you really like, you stew on it for a little bit, but then like you move on. It's like, okay, I have to like move on, and I have to get better. So I'm making a stretch here. I'm assuming a loss is like breaking up with a girl when I was like in high school, or a girl breaking up with me when I was in high school, or just life in general. I know that sounds stupid, but is that part of like the process in terms of like getting over a loss?
Definitely. I mean, you have to just come to terms and accept with, okay, that one didn't go my way. I'm just gonna learn from it. Like, this is either gonna define me and stop me, or it's just gonna be one of my amateur fights that didn't go my way, and in the future it's gonna be like, well, I'm glad that it happened, and I'm glad that I learned from it.
Absolutely, because I'm glad you lost. And the reason why I'm glad that you lost is because it's a learning opportunity. It's only going to help you. You're not going to... Like, the girl that you just fought this summer, I'm sure she's fantastic, and I'm not trying to, like, talk crap about her. Not at all. That's not what I'm about. But, like, it's hard to, like, learn things when you're just destroying it. Like, in 20 seconds, you armbarred that girl. Like, when you look at the tape, it's like, I can't really do anything different. Like, yeah, it happened. Like, I fell, I tripped, but, like, I executed perfectly. It's a huge learning opportunity for your opponent, but not so much for you.
Right. Like, in my fight with Natalie, I feel like I was in almost every position possible in those 3 rounds. I mean, she was on top of me, she took me down a lot, like she was even like ground and pounding me at the end of one of the rounds. She held me against the wall a lot, and you know, we were striking, we were on the ground, we were in almost every position. So in just those 3 rounds, I learned so much about myself and just about what I wanted to work on and what I needed to improve, and my coaches were able to see that too.
She tested you, and from what I could tell, it looked... I don't remember, like, in between, like, which round it was. It could have been, like, in between, like, the second and third. Don't quote me on that. But you were walking back into your corner, and I could tell, like, you were tired. Like,
oh, yeah.
You were... But I hadn't seen that before in any of your other fights, but, like, for this particular one, you were just, like, I could tell, like, she is testing you. Like, she's asking, like, you're giving it every single thing that you have. And I bet when you look back on that fight now and all the insane amount of work that you put in over a year and a half has gone by, basically, since that fight had happened. If you had to, like, fight that version of yourself, like, you would... It's probably a night and day difference between who she was and then who you are now.
Right.
Like, what have you been working on specifically since the Schlesinger fight?
I definitely have been... I've done, you know, done a few, like, Muay Thai fights since then. So, I mean, my striking and just, like, being patient, I think, was the number one thing, because when especially that fight, I just go out and just go for blood in, like, the first 30 seconds. And that's definitely what I did in that fight. And I definitely was tired after like the first 30 seconds, because I just tried to just go in, throw a bunch of punches, and hope that one of them would, like, knock her out or something. But obviously with a more experienced opponent, more, you know, it's not gonna be that easy. And so I think I just learned patience and more technical stuff, like feints and, you know, just like the feeling out process, even though, like, that's kind of hard for me. I think most amateurs, the feeling out process is weird. It's and I'm still learning about that. But yeah, definitely just patience and, you know, when you're in a good position, taking a breath, listening to your coach, not getting overwhelmed or caught up in the moment or anything. So definitely just, patience.
So, Ashley, you're 20 years old, and it's just hard to believe that that is what your age is, because you fight like somebody who is so much more experienced than that. You look like somebody who has a lot of patience already, and you could just tell you're very well coached. I'm sure it's a compound issue. I'm sure it's part of that is just your personality and your own discipline, and then your coaching is probably the other half of that coin. And I think what you have in your advantage is, I think there are going to be people. Most of the people that you're going to fight, even on the ammy scene, are going to be older than you. That's probably a given.
Yeah.
And they're going to look at your fights, and they're going to be like, she's a youngin. Whatever.
Yeah.
Her record's not that great. It's okay. Whatever. Do you feel that like you're going to get underestimated at some point? Because your next logical opponent is probably going to be somebody that has been in the game for a minute. You're probably going to fight another Natalie, I would imagine, is going to be your next fight.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna underestimate me. I mean, even if you look at my first MMA fight, I mean, I was 18. That was the day before I graduated high school. And I really just didn't really know what I was doing within, the process of getting ready for a fight. Like, I have great coaches and stuff, and, in terms of like weight cutting and getting ready and stuff, but still, like, you have to fight to really understand what it's like to fight. You can prepare and stuff, but just that experience of fighting just is really what helps you mentally get ready. So I think I've just, learned so much since then. And I think I'm just such a different version of myself even since then, that every fight, that they're going to look at, I'm just not the same person.
Absolutely. And do you have any sort of like semblance as to like when you'll be back out there? Because you weren't touched in your last fight. And knowing you probably went right to your gym, or you went to the promotion. You're like, I'm ready 2 weeks from now. She didn't even touch me. I'm in shape. I'm ready to go. When do you want to go back out?
So we were hoping for like November, but then we heard from Reality and said that they were definitely going to do a card in January, Mohegan Sun, and that they were definitely going to make it a priority to get me an opponent. So that's what I'm looking to now, is January, because I know that for sure I'm probably going to be fighting on that card.
That sounds really exciting. I won't ask you who. That may not even be lined up. And
not even lined up.
And even if it is lined up, I know you couldn't talk about it anyway. I think that's a really great opportunity. I hope you get a main card slot. I think it'd be a good experience for you, and that's probably a much bigger venue anyway. Yeah. And those are the types of like boxes that you need to like tick off. How much long? Like, I understand. I have to ask you the question because I know it's an annoying one, and I know Ammys hate this question, but I have to ask it anyway. You're 20 years old. You just started. Is the plan to be on the Ammy scene for like the next couple of years before you think about moving up?
Yeah, I mean, I want to get as much experience as possible. I don't want to go into being a pro feeling like I'm underprepared in any way, or I haven't tested myself enough. So I really don't have like a cap on how many fights I want to have or how long I want to do it. I'd like to ideally go pro by the time I'm like 22. But it could be earlier, it could be later. It all depends on if I feel like I've tested myself enough, and if my coaches feel like I have and that I'm ready.
And if it's the right opportunity as well.
Of course.
Because sometimes when the opportunities present themselves, sometimes you just kind of have to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So that happened to another follower of this channel, Dylan Potter. He got called up to the Contender series. He wasn't expecting that. When I was talking to him, he's like, yeah, I'll probably fight at some point during this fall. A guy backed out or got hurt. Dylan had just been recovering from like getting over, I don't know if he had Rona or something, but he was getting over something. He got a call and he was like, well, shit, I got to take it. He's like, I'm taking it. And who could blame him? I'm like, yeah, dude, like you had to. And he took the fight, I think, on like 6 days notice.
Yep.
And that was it. So but he was already a pro. But what I'm trying to say is, like, sometimes the opportunities find you, and you always kind of have to be ready. And I'm sure that's something that Hilarie's probably told you a lot about. And speaking of Hilarie, she's got a huge fight. I bet you're super excited for that. Tell me about, without giving anything away, tell me about, like, just how you've been working with her to get her ready for this.
So Hilarie, like, she's a perfect example of staying ready for any opportunity. And I mean, she's got goals, and she doesn't just talk about them. Like, she goes after them. Her actions speak so much louder than, words. And she's not somebody who talks about what they're going to do. She gets after it and she does it. So she's like the most hardworking person I know. She's always training, always working hard. So, and I mean, she just took that kickboxing fight that she just did, New England Fights, and, won a dominant decision. So she's just always ready. So, we just keep doing what we're doing, and might work like, specific things. But she's just always ready. She's always working.
And she, if my memory serves me right, she beat Glory, and she's very good.
Yeah,
like that's not.
Yeah, and that was another one that Hilarie took on like a week's notice. So that just speaks, volumes about how she is truly always ready to fight, good opponents.
Ashley, like, you are just, it really is just a pleasure watching you, and I can't wait to, like, see what's next for you. And, like, I know the future's bright for you. I think it's one of those things where it's just like, you gotta respect the process, but you seem very, very grounded. There are some younger folks I talk to that are really like, I want to be the champion in like 8 billion different weight classes. I'm like, that's fantastic, man. Good for you. I want that for you. At the same time, though, it's like, dude, you're like 21 years old. Take your time.
Yeah.
And it just seems like you have the right mentality, the right approach, the right coaches. And there's just so much that I think that you're benefiting from being right with Hilarie. Hilarie is a pro's pro. I can't say enough good things about her. I'm a massive fan of hers. And you know what? She needs to be on my wall.
Yeah.
I have Miranda on my wall.
Yeah.
But I don't have a 15er. That's sad. That's sad. I'll put you on my wall too. Don't worry.
Oh, perfect.
Ashley, like, I did put together, what people are about to see now when they're watching this next is I put together like a hype reel of sorts. I grabbed stuff that stands out to me from all your fights. And for somebody who's watching that for the very first time, like, Ashley Barrett, who's that? What is it that they need to know about you before they watch those fight clips?
Definitely that I just keep moving forward. I'm just unfazed by things that so many people are unfazed by. I'm just trying to win this fight the whole time, trying to dominate the whole time. So even if I get hit, even if I get, even if it's not going my way, I'm digging for it the whole time, and I just don't stop moving forward.
She does not stop moving forward, indeed. Ashley, why don't you take a chance to, is there anyone from your gym you want to talk up? Do you have any shout outs that need to be shouted out?
Well, Hilarie's, of course, got her fight coming up Friday for LFA. And my teammate Shane Doherty just defended his belt at Cage Titans in August. He won in 53 seconds of the first round. So definitely big things coming out of USMMA. And we've got a few other people who hopefully we'll see coming up. I think we've got some exciting things that are going to be happening.
And Ashley will be tagged in this, so everyone please drop her a follow. Like, that support, especially for any fighter, but particularly on the ammy scene, it makes a huge difference. And like, social media followings, etc., like, I know that sounds plastic and lame, but it's really not when you're fighting, especially on the ammy scene. And like, the bigger crowd that you can show people that you have, sometimes the easier it is to get fights. So Ashley, appreciate your time. Thank you for being here, and let's run it back soon.